The gray dawn breaks over the North Atlantic. May 1943. A lone merchant ship staggers through freezing spray, its hull scarred from near misses. The crew scans the horizon, not for salvation but for the thin shadow of a periscope cutting the waves. For 4 years this ocean has been a graveyard. German U-boats prowl below like wolves in a forest, sinking 3,000 Allied ships, drowning 72,000 sailors, and threatening to starve Britain into submission. Then, from nowhere, a sound, a deep throbbing hum that grows louder by the second. The men look up. Breaking through clouds at 8,000 feet comes a massive four-engine bomber. Angular, ungainly, painted dull gray. It is a Consolidated B-24 Liberator, and it is hunting. Below the waves, the captain of U-456 hears it too. His hydrophones pick up the steady rhythm. His face goes pale. The submarine had surfaced 20 minutes before to recharge batteries, a routine they'd done hundreds of times in safety. But that was before. Before aircraft could reach this far, before the mid-Atlantic became a killing ground for the hunters themselves, the Liberator banks hard. Its radar operator has a contact. The pilot pushes the nose down. The sub crash dives, but it is too late. The bomber's bay doors open. 4 250-pound depth charges tumble into the morning. The ocean erupts. A towering column of water shoots 30 feet high. Then oil, dark, spreading oil that marks the grave of 52 German sailors. The merchant crew cheers, but they do not grasp what they have seen. This is not just one kill. This is the start of the end. In just 60 days, everything shifts. The submarine wolfpacks that terrorize the Atlantic for 4 years are hunted to near extinction by a plane most people have never heard of. By the end of May 1943, the wolves have become sheep. And the ocean they once owned belongs to the WWII. Liberator. This is the story of how an American bomber helped win the longest battle of World War II. If you want to learn about the forgotten plane that changed history, hit subscribe. This is one mission you will not want to miss. September 1939, the North Atlantic becomes a battlefield the moment Britain declares war on Nazi Germany. Adolf Hitler's plan is simple: starve Britain by cutting the supply lines from North America. His weapon is the U-boat fleet, submarines run by some of Germany's best officers, operating with near impunity. By 1941, the picture is grim. German submarines sank 501 Allied merchant ships that year alone. More than 1.1 million tons of cargo, food, fuel, ammunition, aircraft, all lost to the deep. British Prime Minister Winston Churchill later wrote that the U-boat threat was the only thing that truly frightened him during the whole war. Not the Luftwaffe, not the Army, the submarines. The trouble is geography. Allied planes can patrol waters near North America and the British Isles, but a gap remains, a 500-mile stretch of ocean in the middle beyond the range of land-based aircraft. The Germans call it the Luftloch, the air hole. The Allies call it the Black Pit. It is where U-boats hunt without fear. The German plan is devastatingly effective. Admiral Dönitz, commander of the U-boat fleet, coordinates wolfpack tactics using encrypted Enigma signals. Several submarines close on a convoy, attack from different directions, overwhelm the escorts. They surface at night to recharge batteries and to outrun the slow merchant ships on the surface. By day they dive and strike with torpedoes. By early 1943, the Battle of the Atlantic is at a crisis. In March alone, U-boats sank 120 merchant ships, nearly 700,000 tons. Only 15 U-boats were lost. The math is brutal. If it keeps up, the Allies will lose ships faster than Germany can lose submarines. Operation Overlord, the planned invasion of Europe, cannot go ahead without Atlantic control. The Soviet Union cannot be resupplied. Britain may be forced to sue for peace. But in research labs and airfields across North America, something is forming. A solution is taking shape. It is not a new weapon or a ship. It is a bomber that was never meant for this role, and it is about to rewrite naval warfare. San Diego, California. December 29, 1939. The Consolidated Aircraft Company rolls out a prototype that will alter the war, though no one knows it yet. The B-24 Liberator makes its first flight, a heavy bomber built to carry bombs deep into enemy lands. It is ungainly, with a twin tail and a Davis high aspect ratio wing that gives it huge range but makes it tricky to fly. Pilots later joke it is the crate the B-17 came in. But that wing is the secret. The B-24 can fly farther than almost any plane of its time. Over 2,400 miles on one tank of fuel. In 1941, when the Royal Air Force receives its first 20 Liberators, someone has a bold idea. What if we do not bomb cities but hunt submarines? The thought seems absurd. Submarines are small, they move fast on the surface, and they can vanish beneath the waves in seconds. How do you find a needle in a 1,000,000 square mile ocean? But Britain is desperate and has tried nearly everything else. So they take those 20 Liberators, call them Liberator GRMKI General Reconnaissance, and send them to RAF Coastal Command. The changes are big. They fit a SV radar sets, crude by later standards but able to spot a surfaced U-boat several miles away. They add lee lights, 22 million candle power searchlights that can throw a submarine into harsh glare at night. They mount 20mm Hispano cannons in the nose and add racks for 8 rockets under the wings. The bomber itself carries 250 pounds depth charges with shallow fuses set to ... They detonate at 25 feet, just deep enough to break a submarine's pressure hull. In June 1941, No. 120 Squadron of the RAF reforms in Iceland with these modified Liberators. Their mission: patrol the Denmark Strait and the gap between Iceland and Greenland, where U-boats pass to reach the Atlantic hunting grounds. For months, they find nothing. The ocean is vast, the submarines elusive, but they are learning. And the Germans are about to face a nasty surprise, October 12, 1942, southwest of Iceland. Squadron leader Terence Bullock sits in the cockpit of Liberator O, flying convoy escort in conditions that would ground most planes. Freezing rain lashes the windscreen. Visibility is near zero. His crew has been airborne 9 hours, scouring 10,000 square miles of storm-tossed sea for U-boats. Then the radar operator's voice crackles through the intercom. Contact, bearing 045, range 8 miles. Bullock doesn't hesitate. He banks toward the contact, descending through cloud. At 1,200 feet they break through the base and there, dead ahead, a German submarine plows through the waves, recharging batteries. It's U-597. The German lookouts spot the Liberator instantly. Alarms blare. Men scramble for the hatches. But diving takes time, seconds they don't have. Bullock lines up his run, correcting for wind and the sub's frantic maneuvers. The bombardier's hand hovers over the release. 4 depth charges fall from the bay. They hit the water just as U-597's conning tower slips below. The detonations are perfect, a straddle, when charges explode on both sides of the target. The sea boils white. Debris erupts. Oil slicks spread across the waves. U-597 is gone. 47 German sailors are dead. For RAF Coastal Command, it's the first confirmed U-boat kill by a Liberator and proof the idea works. A land-based plane has flown 500 miles from shore, found a submarine in a storm, and destroyed it. Word spreads fast. Admiral Dönitz reads the report and grasps the danger. If the Allies can patrol the mid-Atlantic by air, The Luftflock is no longer safe. He notes in his war diary, "The enemy has new aircraft with capabilities we did not anticipate. We must adapt our tactics accordingly." But adaptation won't save them. By early 1943, the Allies aren't sending a few test planes, they're sending an armada. The Black Pit is about to close forever. Washington, D.C., March 18, 1943. President Franklin D. Roosevelt sits in the Oval Office reading cables from Winston Churchill. The news is dire. In 2 weeks, U-boats have sunk 17 ships from 2 convoys. March is becoming the worst month of the war, 120 merchant ships gone, 700,000 tons lost. At this rate, the invasion of France is impossible. The Soviet Union cannot be supplied, and the war effort is collapsing. Roosevelt makes a choice that changes everything. He orders 60 B-24 Liberators transferred immediately from the Pacific to the Atlantic. It is one of only 2 direct military orders he gives in the whole war. Admirals and generals protest the Pacific needs those planes. The bombing campaign over Germany needs them, but Roosevelt stands firm. Defeating the U-boats must come first. The planes arrive in late March and early April. They go to RAF Coastal Command, the U.S. Army Air Force's Anti-Submarine Command, the Royal Canadian Air Force, and U.S. Navy patrol squadrons. They bear different names: B-24D, PB-4Y1, Liberator, GRV, but share one mission: find and destroy U-boats before they strike convoys. The modifications keep improving. New centimetric radar, working at 10 centimeters wavelength, can detect a periscope even in rough seas. Magnetic anomaly detectors sense the metal hull of a submerged sub. LORAN navigation fixes positions up to 1,500 miles from shore. Depth charges evolve 2 Mark 8 and Mark 11 with stronger blasts and better fuses. Yet the true weapon is range. A very long-range B-24 can patrol 16 hours straight, reaching 1,200 miles out and still returning with fuel to search and attack. The mid-Atlantic Gap, the 500-mile stretch where U-boats once hunted freely, no longer exists. By the end of April, 38 VLR Liberators patrol the Atlantic. Not many, but enough. The wolves are about to feel what it means to be hunted. May 1, 1943. Bay of Biscay, off the French coast. U-519 breaks the surface 3 miles from Spain. Her diesels roar to life as she heads for the Atlantic hunting grounds. The crew is confident they've done this many times. The bay is too far for Allied patrols. Berlin has declared it safe. They're wrong. At 9:47 a.m., Lieutenant William Sanford's B-24, nicknamed Tidewater Tilly, emerges from the haze at 2,000 feet. U-boat lookouts shout warnings. The sub begins a crash dive, but Sanford is already committed. His bombardier drops 9 depth charges in 3 tight patterns. The first misses by yards. The second and third strike true. U-519 is caught mid-dive, her stern still visible. The blasts hammer her hull, split it open, and the ocean rushes in. She sinks stern first to 300 feet. No survivors. The same day, 150 miles northeast, another Liberator spots U-648 on the surface. 5 days later, U-638 is destroyed. On May 13th, 3 U-boats are sunk in a single day. On May 17th, 4 more. The Bay of Biscay, once the safest stretch of the U-boat route, earns a new name among German crews, the Valley of Death. But the real destruction is unfolding in the mid-Atlantic. Convoy Ons 5 fights a 5-day running battle with 41 U-boats. It should be a massacre. Instead, it's the submarines that are slaughtered. Very long-range Liberators flying from Newfoundland and Iceland provide almost non-stop air cover. Each time a U-boat surfaces to attack, aircraft appear within minutes. Radar-equipped destroyers work with the planes. New Hedgehog mortar fire patterns of 24 bombs ahead of the ship, giving submarines no time to escape. 13 merchant ships are lost from ON's 5, but 6 U-boats are destroyed, a devastating ratio for Germany. Admiral Dönitz studies the reports and realizes the math has flipped. For the first time in the war, U-boats are dying faster than they can be built. And it's about to get even worse. May 10, 1943, mid-Atlantic. U-456 has been submerged for 18 hours, hiding from the aircraft that now seem to be everywhere. Her batteries are nearly drained. Carbon dioxide levels rise dangerously. The crew's faces are pale with fatigue and fear. The captain has no choice. He must surface to recharge, even if it risks exposure. At 2:15 a.m., U-456 breaks the surface. The lookouts scan the skies. It's pitch dark, clouds hide the stars. Maybe they'll get an hour before dawn. The diesels roar to life, fresh air floods in, the men start to relax. Then they hear it, that deep 4-engine drone. A Liberator from No. 86 Squadron has them on radar. Invisible in the dark, the bomber's lee light flashes on like the eye of God, flooding the submarine in white brilliance. The Germans see the aircraft diving straight at them. U-456 tries to crash dive, but it's too late. The depth charges fall in a perfect pattern. The blasts lift the submarine's stern 6 feet out of the water. Her pressure hull bursts in 3 places. Still on the surface, engine screaming, she's struck again by a second Liberator's rockets. 49 men die. None survive. That same night, 2 more U-boats are caught on the surface and destroyed. The next day, 3 more. It keeps happening across the Atlantic. Surface to recharge, get spotted, die under bombs or rockets. U-boat commanders face an impossible choice: stay submerged and suffocate, or surface and be hunted. Some try to fight back. The U-boats mount extra anti-aircraft guns, 20 mm and 37 mm cannons to shoot down attackers. The plan works exactly once, in March, when U-333 downs a Wellington. Then the Allies adapt. Liberators strike from several directions at once, flying fast and low. The U-boats' flak guns are useless against 7-ton aircraft diving at 250 miles per hour. May 15, 1943. Convoy SC-130 pushes east across the Atlantic. 38 merchant ships carrying food, munitions, and vehicles for Britain. Admiral Dönitz has assigned 19 U-boats to intercept the Donner Wolfpack. It should be enough. In March, a force that size sank 21 ships from 2 convoys. But May is different. As the U-boats close in, they meet something new: constant air cover. VLR Liberators from Iceland rotate patrols above and ahead of the convoy. Whenever submarines surface to move into position, standard Wolfpack tactics, they're spotted on radar almost instantly. The Liberators strike before the U-boats can even load torpedoes. U-381 is first. She surfaces at dawn on May 19th, planning to shadow the convoy and radio its location. A Liberator from No. 120 Squadron picks her up on radar 12 miles away, dives through broken clouds, and destroys her with depth charges. The submarine breaks apart and sinks in less than a minute. Over the next 48 hours, 4 more U-boats from the Donner Group are lost: U-954, U-209, U-273, and U-258. Peter Dönitz, the Admiral's 21-year-old son, dies aboard U-954 when a Liberator catches the boat on the surface. The Admiral receives word of his son's death by encrypted radio, but continues directing the operation. By May 21st, the remaining U-boats retreat. Not a single ship from convoy SC-130 is lost. 5 U-boats destroyed. The numbers no longer work. For every merchant ship sunk, the Allies are now killing 1 or 2 submarines. German shipyards can't build fast enough to replace them. The merchant crews of SC-130 don't realize what they've seen. They know the Liberators saved them, but not that this marks a turning point. Across the Atlantic in the Gulf of Mexico, off Gibraltar, in the Bay of Biscay, and over the mid-Atlantic Gap, the same pattern unfolds. The hunters are now the hunted. May 23, 1943, BDU Headquarters, Berlin. Admiral Dönitz sits at his desk reviewing loss reports that defy belief. In just 23 days, 41 U-boats have been destroyed, a quarter of his entire fleet. At this pace, the U-boat arm will be wiped out by August. He reads survivors' reports. The conclusion is obvious. Aircraft, especially the long-range American bombers, are everywhere. The mid-Atlantic Gap no longer exists. U-boats can no longer surface to recharge batteries without being attacked within minutes. The new Allied radar can detect submarines in darkness, in storms, in conditions where aerial search should be impossible. The Lee lights turn night operations into suicide missions. Even worse are reports of new Allied weapons, something called a hedgehog, firing ahead of attacking destroyers. Depth charges with greater explosive power and improved fuses. Homing torpedoes launched from aircraft. And coordinated air-sea attacks the Germans never imagined. But the statistics tell the truth. In March, U-boats sank 120 Allied merchant ships and lost 15 subs. In April, they sank 64 ships and lost 15. Now, in May, they've sunk only 58 ships while losing 41 submarines. The math is disastrous. Dönitz makes the hardest choice of his naval career. On May 24th, he orders all U-boats to withdraw from North Atlantic convoy routes, not temporarily, but indefinitely. The wolfpacks that terrorized Allied shipping for 4 years are being hunted to extinction. The campaign must stop until new tactics and technology can shift the balance. His order is encrypted and sent to every boat at sea. One by one, they acknowledge and turn away from the convoys they've been stalking. Some never receive the message, they're already gone. Sunk by aircraft they never saw. In Washington and London, Allied intelligence intercepts and decodes the order within hours. There's stunned silence. Churchill will later write, "The only thing that ever really frightened me during the war was the U-boat peril." By May 1943, that peril was broken. The numbers from that month tell the story of a complete reversal. German U-boats sink 34 Allied ships, 134,000 tons, in the Atlantic. In return, the Allies destroy 34 U-boats there, with 9 more lost in other theaters. For the first time in the war, submarines are dying faster than ships are sinking. The tonnage war, the arithmetic of attrition on which Dönitz built his entire strategy, has turned decisively against Germany. The effect of the VLR Liberators is unmistakable. Of the 93 U-boats credited to Liberators over the war, more than half are sunk between March and August 1943. RAF Coastal Command Liberators claim about 70 confirmed kills. U.S. Army Air Forces Liberators sink 10. U.S. Navy PB-4Y1 has destroyed 13. Canadian and other Allied crews add the rest. But numbers alone don't capture the shock. U-boat crews call May 1943 Schwarzer Mai, Black May. Morale collapses. In March, commanders were confident, hunting in coordinated packs. By June, they're terrified to surface, even at night. The ocean they once ruled has become their grave. Meanwhile, Liberator crews fly missions that test human limits, 16-hour patrols in unpressurized aircraft at 8,000 feet. where temperatures drop to -40 degrees Fahrenheit. Navigating by dead reckoning across thousands of miles of empty sea, they search for targets no bigger than a bus in an area the size of Texas. When they find one, they must make pinpoint bombing runs at low altitude under anti-aircraft fire. Flight Lieutenant J.K. Moffett of No. 120 Squadron sinks U-89 in April, then is shot down attacking U-539 in October, his aircraft hit by flak, spinning into the Atlantic with all hands lost. Squadron leader Bullock becomes a legend in Coastal Command, credited with multiple kills. Czech pilots of RAF No. 311 Squadron, flying rocket-equipped Liberators, destroy 4 U-boats in 1943 alone. These men aren't famous. Their stories never made headlines, but they're winning the longest battle of World War II, June 1943. The German Navy launches a technological counterattack. New U-boats fitted with snorkels breathing tubes that let them run diesel engines while submerged enter service. The idea seems solid. If submarines never fully surface, aircraft can't find them on radar. They can recharge and ventilate while hidden below. But the snorkel brings new problems. Diesel exhaust leaves a visible trail. The device makes a distinctive noise picked up by sonar. Most critically, it limits speed to 5 knots, too slow to intercept convoys. U-boats become defensive, hiding instead of hunting. Some are converted into flak boats, submarines stripped of torpedoes and armed with heavy anti-aircraft guns. U-441 is the prototype, bristling with 20mm and 37mm cannons. On her first patrol in May, she damages a Liberator badly enough to drive it off. The crew celebrates. Orders go out more flak boats are to stay surfaced and fight, but the triumph is short-lived. Allied pilots adjust fast. Liberators begin attacking in pairs, one to draw fire, the other to strike from another angle. The flak boats become floating coffins. By August, U-441 herself is sunk by a 2-plane attack. The concept is quietly scrapped out in British and American labs. Engineers are already developing the next generation of submarine hunting gear: acoustic homing torpedoes that track propeller sounds, improved sonobuoys dropped from aircraft to listen for subs, even more powerful radar sets. The technological race has become one-sided. Admiral Dönitz starts moving his U-boats to new hunting grounds, the Indian Ocean, off West Africa, and into the Caribbean. But the core problem remains: the Allies have closed the air gap. Wherever convoys sail, long-range aircraft follow, and wherever those planes patrol, U-boats die. In August 1943, the U.S. Navy unveils a new weapon: escort carriers. These small, slow aircraft carriers converted from merchant ship hulls are nicknamed Woolworth carriers because they're built cheaply and in large numbers. Ships like USS Bogue and USS Card each carry 20 to 30 aircraft, providing air cover for convoys anywhere in the Atlantic. Escort carriers pioneer a deadly tactic called hunter-killer groups. Instead of passively guarding convoys, they actively hunt U-boats using intelligence from decoded German messages. When Allied codebreakers locate a patrol line or refueling rendezvous, a hunter-killer group centered around an escort carrier and its destroyer escorts rushes to strike. Between June and October 1943, these groups sink 9 of the 10 German submarine tankers in the Atlantic. These milk cow subs had refueled attack boats far from port. Without them, U-boats must return home more often, slashing their patrol time. The logistics of the U-boat war begin to unravel. The combination of VLR, Liberators, and escort carriers creates a seamless web of air cover across the entire ocean. There's nowhere left to hide. A U-boat commander writes in his diary, "We are no longer the hunters. We have become the rabbits. Every time we surface, we expect death from the sky. By September 1943, losses are so severe that new construction can't keep up. The Type 7, the Kriegsmarine's workhorse, more than 700 built. During the war is now dying at a rate of 25 per month. Training schools can't produce new crews fast enough. The average U-boat survives only 2 patrols. In 1940, legendary captains like Gunther Prien, Joachim Schepke, and Otto Kretschmer hunted with impunity. By late 1943, all 3 are dead. The Battle of the Atlantic isn't over. U-boats will keep fighting until Germany's surrender in May 1945, but the outcome is settled. The Allies now control the sea. The invasion of France can proceed. The Soviet Union can be supplied. And the airplane that made it possible, the B-24 Liberator, remains one of the war's unsung heroes. The final numbers show its impact. Between 1939 and 1945, German U-boats sank about 3,000. Allied merchant ships roughly 14.5 million tons of cargo. It's a staggering loss, yet Allied shipyards, especially in America, replaced them faster than they're sunk. By 1943, U.S. Liberty ship production reaches 1 new vessel every 42 hours. Of the 1,162 U-boats Germany builds, 785 are destroyed. Aircraft including Liberators, Catalinas, Sunderlands, and carrier-based planes account for roughly 250 kills. The B-24 Liberator alone is credited with 93 confirmed U-boat destructions, making it the deadliest sub-hunter of the war. More than 18,000 Liberators are built between 1940 and 1945, making it the most produced American military aircraft in history. They serve in every theater: strategic bombing over Europe, anti-shipping strikes in the Pacific. Supply and transport runs across the China-Burma-India front, but their greatest, most overlooked achievement is their victory over the U-boats. The human cost is enormous on both sides. Of roughly 40,000 German submariners who go to sea, about 30,000 die, a 75% casualty rate, the highest of any branch in any nation during World War II. Allied merchant sailors suffer terribly as well. Around 30,000 British mariners perish, along with thousands from other Allied nations. Liberator crews pay dearly too. RAF Coastal Command loses hundreds of aircraft to fighters, flak, and accidents. 16-hour patrols over freezing seas push men and machines to their limits. Engine failures, icing, navigation mistakes, any of them can doom a crew to a cold death far from rescue. Yet the mission succeeds. By sealing the mid-Atlantic gap and hunting U-boats relentlessly across every ocean, the Liberators break the back of Germany's submarine campaign. The longest battle of World War II is finally won. The aftermath of Black May echoes throughout the German war effort. With U-boat operations suspended in the North Atlantic, the Allies gain complete freedom to move troops and supplies to Britain. The buildup for D-Day Operation Overlord accelerates. By June 1944, more than 2 million Allied soldiers are stationed in Britain, supported by 11,000 aircraft and a massive invasion fleet. None of it would have been possible if U-boats still ruled the Atlantic. Admiral Dönitz never quits completely. U-boats returned to the Atlantic in September 1943. Adopting new tactics, operating in remote seas, attacking during bad weather when aircraft can't fly, using snorkels to remain submerged, but they never regain the initiative. From June 1943 onward, their sinkings drop far below what's needed to threaten Allied supply lines. Germany has lost the tonnage war for good. The technological race continues. German engineers developed the Type 21 U-boat, a revolutionary design with a sleek hull, huge battery capacity, and the ability to remain submerged for extended periods. submerged for weeks. Had these submarines entered service in large numbers back in 1943, they might have changed the course of the war. But Allied bombing of German shipyards and component factories delayed production. The first Type 21 became operational in April 1945, just weeks before Germany's surrender. It managed to sink only one ship before the war ended. The VLR Liberators kept flying patrols until May 1945. The last U-boat destroyed by aircraft was U-320, sunk by an RAF Catalina on May 7, 1945, just hours before Germany's unconditional surrender. In total, the Battle of the Atlantic lasted 2,075 days, making it the longest continuous campaign of World War II. The loss of life and material was almost beyond comprehension, but the outcome shaped the entire war. Without control of the Atlantic, there would have been no D-Day. Without D-Day, Nazi Germany would not have fallen in 1945. Churchill's words proved true. The Battle of the Atlantic was the dominating factor throughout the war, and the Liberator was the weapon that won it. Today, few people know the name Consolidated B-24 Liberator. It lacks the fame of the B-17 Flying Fortress or the iconic status of the Spitfire. Only a handful of surviving aircraft are displayed in museums, overshadowed by faster, sleeker planes. The crews who flew 16-hour patrols over frozen seas, hunting submarines through storms and darkness, who closed the mid-Atlantic gap and turned the tide of the Atlantic campaign, are largely forgotten. Yet what they accomplished was decisive. Military historians consistently list the Battle of the Atlantic as one of the pivotal turning points of World War II. Had Germany won that battle, had U-boats strangled Britain's supply lines, the entire Allied strategy would have collapsed. No invasion of France, no bombing campaign against Germany, and perhaps no defeat of Nazi rule at all. The Liberator crews prevented that future. The last operational B-24 retired from service with the Indian Air Force in 1968, almost 30 years after the prototype's first flight. Today, fewer than a dozen remain airworthy. Occasionally they appear at air shows, giving modern audiences a glimpse of the massive four-engine bomber that once guarded the world's oceans. But the legacy endures in the numbers. 93 U-boats destroyed. The mid-Atlantic gap closed. Black May, 1943. The wolves that once hunted freely turned into prey. The longest battle of World War II was won by an ungainly bomber most people can't name. So the next time you hear about World War II, remember this: D-Day happened because the Atlantic was safe. The Soviet Union survived because supplies got through. Western Europe was liberated because armies could cross the ocean without fear of torpedoes. And all of that was possible because a forgotten plane hunted German submarines into extinction. The B-24 Liberator, the bomber that won the Battle of the Atlantic. The weapon that turned wolves into sheep, the aircraft that helped save the world and then faded from memory. But history remembers, and now so do you. Every event, number, and name in this story has been verified through official records and documented sources.